I am Joanne Powell-Coffman, she, her, hers. I am an associate dean and a former department chair at Iowa State University. Before this site became Iowa State University, it was the ancestral lands and territory of the Bakojay or Iowa Nation. The United States obtained the land from the Meskwaki and Sauk nations in the Treaty of 1842. We wish to recognize our obligations to this land and to the people who took care of it, as well as the 17,000 Native people who live in Iowa today. This is the first of 3 modules that focus on the visioning process. The goal of this first module is for all of the participants to contribute to a shared vision for the future of your department or program. This slide shows where we are in the workshop agenda, and that this is the first of 3 linked modules that will lead to the department's action plan. This diagram also illustrates how the visioning process is integrated with and builds upon the prior modules, experiencing change, empowering teams, and facilitative leadership. In this section, we're focused on identifying a vision. The following 2 modules will address barriers to that vision and then development of the action plan. We will use the same basic methodology for each of the 3 parts: vision, barriers, and action plan. Much of this important work will be conducted in small group discussions and cycles of divergent and convergent thinking. In other words, we'll facilitate a process in which groups can brainstorm, capture diverse and innovative ideas. Later, participants will work together to recognize commonalities, coalesce their ideas, and develop consensus on how to prioritize next steps. This slide describes the outcomes of this first part of the visioning process. First, participants will work in small groups to brainstorm about where they want the department to be in 5 years. Then, participants will work collaboratively to prioritize 2 to 3 goals to focus on during the course of this workshop. It will be important for everyone to practice facilitative leadership skills, such as active listening, constructive dialogue, and negotiating. Due to the time constraints of the workshop, we'll need to focus on just 2 to 3 goals. But don't worry, other ideas won't be lost. They will be recorded and retained so that the department can return to them in the future. This slide illustrates the process of visioning as a continuum that starts with visioning, followed by barrier identification, and then action planning. Each has the same basic methodology: small group work followed by discussion of the whole group. This is a very systematic approach to action planning. It enables us first in this module that we're in now to focus on visioning, to focus on where the department wants to be 5 years from now, identifying and prioritizing the elements of that desired future state. The next module will enable the group to identify and prioritize the barriers that stand in the way of achieving that future state. And then, in the final module, we'll develop an action plan in which participants will identify action steps and related responsibilities and timelines, and will provide an action planning template for that part. At each of these stages, we'll be developing commonalities and solutions that benefit from the shared wisdom of the department, enabling the group to move forward. This slide illustrates the process as a continuum that starts with visioning, followed by barrier identification, and then action planning. The stage we're at right now is visioning in green. We're going to identify and prioritize the elements of the desired future state. Once the group has agreed on that plan for 5 years from now, that vision for where you want to be, Then we'll move on to barrier identification, identifying and prioritizing all the barriers that stand in the way of achieving your goals for the future. And then finally, the group will engage in action planning, identifying action plans or action steps and related responsibilities and timelines. So, let's get started. The first part of this process is visioning. We'll start with a short overview. Then, the department will work in small groups on vision development. Then, we'll bring the whole group back together to share ideas and prioritize next steps. So the visioning process sets goals for the future, 5 years into the future. And that's important and it's intentional. Some of you may recognize this as a classic backwards design approach, in which we set goals first before deciding on the methods to achieve them. By the whole group focusing on that shared vision for where you want to be 5 years from now, it will establish shared ownership of that desired future and allow the group to plan together. It's important not to get bogged down in the present. It's inevitable that barriers will come to mind in the discussions, but I'm going to ask you to push them off, recognizing that you'll get to them in the next module. For right now, let's focus on those goals for the future, and we'll let the process take care of the barriers later. The process we're going to be using is called facilitated visioning, which I'll outline here briefly. A facilitated process is really designed to encourage everyone to contribute, assure that all voices are heard, and develop consensus for next steps for the department, to create that collective ownership of the path going forward. Along the way, we'll enable new ideas to be heard, foster synergies, and capture that collective wisdom to identify paths forward. We're working towards consensus, and it's important to define how we're using the term here. In this context, we're talking about department-wide buy-in, in which all of the participants recognize that the process was fair and inclusive, that diverse ideas were heard and discussed, and collective decisions were made. This type of consensus can be extraordinarily powerful, and it enables that collective ownership of the process and the outcomes, and provides a foundation for stronger teamwork going forward. In each small group, one person will be nominated to be the session facilitator. The facilitator helps to maintain the established ground rules and keeps the session on track. Importantly, they assure that all voices are heard and respected. This is really important. They will also remind the group that discomfort is a part of change, right? So sometimes the ideas that are presented might seem at odds, but it's important to sit with that and find the new path forward. Facilitator may suggest what that path might be and maintain the group dialogue. Importantly, there should be no judgment of ideas during the brainstorming stage. The group will also nominate a recorder. The recorder captures the ideas voiced by the group. The recorder is an active listener, checks with speakers to assure that what is written accurately captures their ideas. Here, the bulleted list includes listening carefully, asking for clarification, and paraphrasing before writing comments down, checking with the speaker for accuracy. So you can see the facilitator and the recorder together are building trust with the team by the manner in which they respond to each point is made. In empathetic listening and careful paraphrasing, they're building trust and encouraging active participation, showing that each idea is valued. And the participants, of course, have very important roles too. Participants will brainstorm. All ideas are in play. I'm going to ask you to suspend your judgment, be really imaginative, and share the unique insights that each of you have. Respect each other's contributions, and stay engaged even if you experience discomfort. There will be a time for identifying barriers next, but we're not going to point them out right now. We're just going to keep brainstorming. Follow the ground rules. Develop synergy with the team. So if somebody suggests a good idea, yes, and what's the next idea? Ask questions for clarification, but not to rebut each other. Again, we want to create a safe space for coming up with new and imaginative ideas. All right, so we're about ready to get started with the visioning activity, which is to form small groups and engage in collaborative brainstorming. This slide reminds us again of the big picture. Right now, we're focused on the future state. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Tomorrow, we'll move on to identifying the barriers that stand in your way, identifying who owns those barriers, and then working together to build a plan to remove the barriers and achieve your goals. But today, we're focused on the future. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? So this is your prompt. It is 5 years from now, and you've been very successful in transforming your life science program. What does your biology department look like? This is your vision. Now, as you start brainstorming about your vision, it is natural to start thinking about the mechanics. We are trained critical thinkers and problem solvers. Some of us will just be drawn to the mechanics. That's the question, what are you doing to achieve the vision? So that's okay, but we're going to ask that you make note which things actually reflect the vision and which are the mechanics. I'll provide an example. So in this example, the vision is all students are equally successful, regardless of their race, ethnicity, gender, physical ability, etc. Now on the right are possible mechanisms that this department, this hypothetical department, could use to achieve the vision. Right? So maybe all faculty are using inclusive pedagogy, or the department is monitoring persistence or DFW rates and looking for inequities and chasing them down. They may have formed a student advisory board that gives back feedback to the faculty to inform changes. So all those mechanisms are great, and it's fine to write them down and note them, but note that they are mechanisms. They're not the vision, right? They're the paths to achieve the goal, not the goal itself. This slide outlines the process for the small group work. Again, it's 5 years from now, and you've been very successful in transforming your life science program. You're each considering your vision for that future state. The small group work can be thought of as being in 2 stages. The first is divergent thinking, or individual brainstorming. Right? So as shown here in the second bullet, everyone should write each idea you have for your vision on a piece of paper or on a Word document before the group discusses them. The goal here is to develop as many individual ideas as possible. Then you copy your ideas onto Jamboard, again, without consulting with each other. When the pace of idea generation seems to slow, sometimes it's good to wait another 5 minutes just to give people time to think and to come up with their most innovative ideas. Once everyone is done, once everyone has had an opportunity to brainstorm and share their individual ideas, then you'll move into the second phase, with the facilitator and the recorder working together. Make sure everyone is heard, give everyone an opportunity to share their ideas, and then you'll combine and paraphrase similar ideas with your group members. The recorder is going to be doing attentive listening, making sure that what does get written down truly reflects the ideas of the group. These will then be summarized on a separate Jamboard. This is our reminder when you get into those groups. First thing you're going to want to do is to nominate a facilitator and nominate a recorder. All right, so let's get started. Put you into smaller groups. Everybody gets set up with paper or pen or an open document, however it is you like to think. Get comfortable, be creative, have fun with the process, and we'll bring people back from the groups when everyone is ready. So great work in the small groups. Now we're going to reconvene as a large group and learn what each small group has been brainstorming about and some of the ideas that have come forward, and we'll work towards our shared vision. This slide outlines next steps. First, each small group will share their group's list. We may ask some clarifying questions just so we can fully understand the ideas being put forward. And we will keep all of those ideas from each group. In the interest of time, we'll only be able to take 2 or 3 forward for action plans during the course of this workshop. So in order to identify those, we'll next combine some of the overlaps. So we'll identify those ideas that perhaps emerge from multiple groups and, with permission, combine them. Then, when we have a full itemization of the ideas that have come forward from the collective groups, then each of you will vote on which ones to prioritize for an action plan. You'll be voting on them using the pen function in Jamboard, writing your initials next to the top items. This will help us to rank which things to move forward for action plans during the course of this workshop. It will help us to reach consensus on which vision items to develop further. So in this station, you've brainstormed the ideas about where you would like your department to be 5 years from now, the future state. As we go forward into the next session, we'll be brainstorming and taking a similar process to identify the barriers that stand in your way and who owns those barriers. That will then inform the action plan to work together to remove those barriers and make progress towards that future state.